Hi guys, Alicia with Working Dog Radio, Torchlight Canine, and Oil Capital Canine Fund. Thank you guys for tuning in to another awesome episode. Please check us out on YouTube. It's a new format for us. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. We're going to start doing some training videos and some other cool stuff on there. So we would really appreciate your follow on there. We'd like to take a second to thank our amazing sponsors. Without them, none of this would be possible. So guys, please check out Kinetic Dog Food, 513-615-6904. They are amazing. Horizon Structures, everything mild to wild in a dog kennel. They have it. They will drop it off at your door. Give them a call at 888-447-4337. If you guys haven't checked out Highland Canine Training yet, what are you waiting for? Jason and Aaron are amazing. They've got all kinds of courses, classes, and schools going on. Please check out Highland Canine Training at Tactical Police, the letter K, the number 9, training.com. Ray Allen Manufacturing, right there in Colorado. Everything is sewn there. They are amazing. They do so many collaborations with so many of the actual working canine guys in our industry, including me. Give them a shout. Check them out at rayallen.com and use the discount code WDR10RAY for 10% all things Ray Allen. Dogtra.com. If you have an e-collar, if you use an e-collar, if you have a working dog or a pet dog, check out Dogtra. They've got all of the products that you need. You can go to dogtra.com and use discount code WDR10 for 10% off a single item over $200. Enjoy the episode. We'll be back. Thanks.
All right, we are back. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite from a very windy Tulsa, Oklahoma. I am Ted Summers. With me, as always, from Canton, Ohio. If you're listening to this and you hear wind blowing in the background, it's because we have about 50-mile-an-hour straight line winds today, and it's knocked out the power and the internet and all kinds of stuff. No storms, just crazy wind. So, E, what's going on?
Nothing, man. It's a beautiful day. It's March 14th. It's 80 degrees here today. I love it. It's nice. Tomorrow it'll be 40, but that's neither here nor there. But beautiful day. I had a bunch of OD&R guys here using the facility at the funhouse.
I saw that.
They're doing some room entry stuff. The sad thing is, so they were here Wednesday, and they had a pretty good turnout. And then today was day 2 for those guys, and half of them couldn't make it because they got pulled away. There was a helicopter crashed into a body of water here it's called the Mogador Reservoir, hit a power line, dumped over, killed the guy. It's by himself, but fuck them helicopters, man. I ain't riding in them damn things. But anyways, they came and got to use some stuff here. It was pretty cool. And so that's it. The handler class, the guy tests on Tuesday. He'll be done Tuesday. We have, 6 or 7 guys coming from other places to do the state test. What's going on with you? You got a class right
I saw
now?
you taking those sketchy hard sleeve bites from a dog that bites legs.
Yeah. Throw it out there, mix it up. Dude, it was just that one dog, and I'm like, we're in a hurry. We're just going to bang this one thing out. I don't feel like getting sweaty. I had to do a pet dog meet and greet eval thing, and I was like, if I got to
You're okay with stitches, but not sweaty.
Correct. Yeah. Dude, brought some heat though, man. It was fun.
I just got back from Edmonton. We had an HRD up there. I got back last night or yesterday morning. I left midnight and then got back, and then I had in-service last night with our guys. And actually, one of our hosts was one of our former guests, Jason Bourne, from up there in Edmonton PD. Nice group of guys, nice dogs. We had our CMP from the area and from Vancouver. We had some Vancouver PD, Edmonton PD, Lethbridge, and I think I left somebody out. Oh, Medicine Hat, and I think that was it. We had like 17 handlers. So it was pretty good. We got to train in the old Edmonton Oilers ice hockey arena. We used their old locker room, like the locker room where the NHL guys, changed for the games. We used it for Amoeba. It's pretty cool.
That is cool. How old is that building?
Well, I don't know. I know that the new one that they're using now was built in like 2016. They were telling me, but the one up there, I mean, had to have been built
They have heat?
in 60s, 50 or 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
I
Did
would
it have
imagine.
heat?
So yeah, that's the thing. It was about 20 degrees while I was there and kind of snowing the entire time. Inside, it was about 90.
No.
They were all pissed off because they spend about $1 million a year like keeping the water from breathing, because I mean it gets cold in there, like cold, and so yeah, I mean it was 90.
Keep going. Ted's out of it. It'll come back. It'll record. It records locally. So, anyways, with us tonight is our friend Mike Kmiecik from Sheepdog Guardian Consulting. What's going on, Mike? How are you, buddy?
I'm well. I'm well, Eric. Thanks for having me on. Very busy.
Yeah.
We're pretty jamming, rocking. It's good.
That's
It's
cool.
a good thing.
That's great. So we've talked to Mike before. I don't know, man. It's been a few years maybe. So we're 7 years into this show, and we had you on a while ago, and always good episodes. I've heard you on the Police Canine Radio podcast. Those were always good because there's some standard cases, that I'm sure you cover each time. It's weird. I guarantee you see this where you'll have a class scheduled somewhere, say a seminar coming up, and you're going to talk about these 4 cases. And then you're getting people asking you about one specific case that you haven't talked about in a while. And it's like, how'd you guys know? Like, how'd you know I was about to talk to? Or oddly enough, if you come to the show, and the reason why I say that is because this recently was happening with me. We hung out in California. We're at the show out there, and I taught, and then I had to leave and go take some phone calls and do some business. And you were in the class after me. I came back, missed half of your class, and I missed the thing that I wanted to hear you talk about, which was about the mandated or not mandated 16 hours of monthly maintenance training for canine. And I walked in on the end of it, and I said, we got to get him on to ask about that. And then the next week over the last few weeks, tons of people have been calling me, hey, give me some stuff. I need to go. My admins are cutting my training, cutting it out, saying they don't have to be they're not forced to do it, and suck it up, train on your own time, and that type of thing. So before we get into all that, because that'll be we'll do that after the commercial break, I do want to talk about or kind of give your background again. For I'm sure most people know you, but those that don't, what's your background and how'd you get into all this stuff? And from there.
So I worked in law enforcement for 28 years in the Chicago metropolitan area. I retired August of 2023, so a little over a year ago. During that time, I worked several dogs over just shy of a 20-year span. Dogs trained in patrol work, drug detection, cadaver, and I was one of our department's instructors, and I'm an instructor in just about everything there is to be an instructor in law enforcement: firearms, defensive tactics, um, chemical munitions, less lethal, use of force, search and seizure, all that stuff. And Carrie Fleck and I, over at Canine Legal Updates and Opinions, used to talk quite a bit over the years. And so when he got sick, he had asked if, I might consider taking over where he left off. And so very humble for that, and gracious for that offer. So I accepted. And from there, it's been coming up on 6 years now, this month actually, that he passed away, that we started carrying that torch. Um, so not an attorney, which I think most people like. I'm a cop's cop. Been doing it for, like I said, 28 years. Um, so what we do is we keep a online law library basically for canine case law. We do expert witness testimony defending canine handlers, police officers, and agencies, primarily in use of force and the application of the patrol dog. We do canine unit audits, policy consulting, things like that. And our biggest is that we teach seminars across the country. Basically, it's canine search and seizure, right?
Mm.
Use of force, detection dog cases, things like that.
Yeah, and I know after we had you on, you were still on the job when you were on the show before.
I was, yeah.
When was that, Ted? Like 19 or 20 or something like that he was on?
Yeah, it was like right around when Hits was in Maryland or DC or whatever. So that was
Yeah,
20,
it was like shit. That was at 19.
yeah,
It might have been 18
after
even.
that, but
Yeah, 19 maybe. That. Yeah, you were still on the job. So I remember I needed some ammo for an arbitration. I was being called in as a witness on behalf of a guy who was they were trying to suspend and take his dog and things like that from a case, and they wanted me to come in on his behalf. And I remember messaging you and rattled off boom, 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 three cases right then and there. They were from different circuits, but they were published cases, so they were for everybody. And
They're the big ones.
yeah, and so when I was on the Zoom, I always remember I was in Louisiana for that call, and we were doing an HRD, and they were at lunch, and I went and got on the Zoom call and destroyed them with that case law. Destroyed them. Their guy that was in charge of the prosecution, so to speak, for the agency side was a cop, but he was an attorney. He didn't understand, or he didn't know I knew what published meant. And because like, well, what district are we? I'm like, we're in the 6th. Oh, well, that's not the 3rd and 5th or whatever of the other cases. I'm like, yeah, those are published cases. And he was like, well, yeah, what does that mean? And I was like, huh? So I destroyed them. I talked bad mouth their program, shit talked their training, dogged the crap out of them in there. So now they won't buy dogs from me. They don't deal with me. The handler ended up losing the case because his paperwork did look like he was lying. Not gonna sugarcoat that. He went in and this is for you guys that go, have a process of going into internal affairs or whatever. He went in without a representative and just got talked into a circle. And I don't think he was lying. He just said, sure shit looked like it, because he got his ass handed to him. He's like, well, I'd never been in there before. I'm like, yeah, you got tricked, man. They fooled you. And they definitely took advantage of that situation. But because of that the guy who was a captain, I think then now he's like a assistant director or something like that. He put the kibosh on me working with them at all. I was a dick. It was great, but I don't know if I ever got to tell you, thank you for giving me the case law. It was perfect. Very apropos to what the whole case was. So if you see Ted going in and out on this thing, it's just because his power keeps getting knocked out, and we'll just keep going. Mike and I will just keep talking if we lose Ted. So let's go and take our first commercial break. We come back, we're going to get into the case law stuff and the training and things like that we're going to talk about. And then in the third segment, we're going to talk about some cases to watch for, maybe some things on the horizon and where you're going to be. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's me again, back with some more awesome sponsors. I want to talk a little bit about Ray Allen Canine Manufacturing. Who else in our industry allows us to come to them with ideas as handlers, as dog professionals, and say, you know what, I think I would like to make this, or wouldn't this be a good idea? And they will actually sit down with you and talk to you about your designs. I've got a collab with them on a muzzle, on a leash, and a collar. They're amazing to work with. Their products are top notch. They're made in America, in Colorado, and we love Matt. So give them a holler. Check them out on socials at Ray Allen, the letter K, the number 9, or visit them online at rayallen.com and use our discount code WDR10 RAY for 10% off. Guys, have you visited Dogtra lately? If you go to Dogtra, they have their new online portal, and it's really cool, very user friendly. You don't have to call them and order them anymore. You can go to mydogtra.com and they have everything there. You can set up an online profile. They keep your orders. They know what you've used. We use everything, their ball droppers and poppers. We use their e-collars, their 1900S hands-free for our officers, their Q and their 280 for our pet clients. We use all of their products all the time. Eric travels around and does seminars specific to Dogtra, so you can have him come in and teach a class on how to use it. Check them out, dogtra.com, and follow them on their socials. We love kinetic dog food. Ted has been using the large format. It makes excellent tracking treats. He uses it for teaching article indication. It's these huge nuggets of food that you can lay down, grab, put in your trainer's pouch. The quality is excellent. We love Debbie and Dave. We have a great relationship with them. They want to know you. They will talk to you about nutrition, about what your dog's needs are. They'll help get you set up. Their food is available everywhere. We've gotten it off of Chewy. You can buy it at stores. Like, please check them out. kineticdogfood.com. Your dog needs these nutrients, and they are really specific to our industry's needs. They have a full line of supplements now. Please check them out. We'll have some soon that we can give away. Go check them out. Follow them on their socials at Kinetic Dog Food. They'll really appreciate that.
All right, everybody, we are back. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite. Ted, I can hear the wind.
Yeah, it's gnarly.
I can hear it. That's crazy.
Yeah,
myself crazy. And Ted Summers, he's in, not surprising there's wind. It's in the song.
Exactly. It's in the state song. I mean, the winds come sweeping down the plains, and they're mopping. They're not sweeping. Yeah. It's gnarly. They've shut down.
They got a giant push broom today.
I-40 and I-35 are shut down.
It's us and Mike Kmiecik from Sheepdog Guardian Consulting. Probably. Are you at home right now?
I am, yeah.
How's that possible?
Yeah, I know. I just got back from Wisconsin. I was just looking, taught a class up there for the Wisconsin State Patrol, and I'm looking and I'm like, okay, I'm in Pennsylvania next week. The following week after that, I'm in Georgia. The following week after that, I'm in Myrtle Beach. The following week after that, I'm in Florida. I'm like, damn, I got to get caught up on work here, man.
We'll hang out in Myrtle Beach. We'll be there.
Yeah. That's going to be great.
So let's talk about training hours. It's always been the suggested standard of 16 hours. The fact that it's a suggested standard is the reason that admins will push back and not let them have it, because they say it's not a law, it's a suggestion. Well, I'm pretty sure, and you could tell me if I'm wrong on it, I think there might even be some Supreme Court cases that it's suggested.
Well, first of all, just so everybody knows, the Supreme Court has never opined on a patrol dog bite. So the cases that are at the Supreme Court level for police dogs, they're detector dog cases, and more specifically, they're drug detector dog cases. But the big one that even mentions training is Florida versus Harris, right? If a bona fide organization has recently certified a dog after testing his reliability in a controlled setting, or if the dog has recently and successfully completed a training program, a court can presume, but this is what gets people, subject to any conflicting evidence offered, can presume that the dog provides a basis for probable cause to search. And so that's the big one. That's kind of the big one, at least as it relates to the detector dog, side of things. And you're right. I mean, there's no case out there, and I get calls from chiefs and sheriffs all the time. Listen, we're in a manpower crisis. Join the club. Law enforcement generally is in a manpower crisis. My handlers can't be out for 16 hours, a month. Where did this come from? And this is a generally accepted industry standard. It is supported by every major national canine association. It is supported by our scientific community. And when I say scientific community, just as a little background for the listeners, in 2003, there was an organization that was federally funded, kind of popped up. It's called SWGDOG, the Scientific Working Group on Dogs and Orthogonal Detection Guidelines. And so that was a think tank group of individuals, PhDs, lawyers, practitioners, you and I, dog trainers, dog handlers, that kind of got together to kind of create like best practice guidelines, right? And so they supported it. Well, in 2014, that federal funding ran out. for Swig Dog. That during the Obama administration, federal funding went away for law enforcement. So of course, where there's a void, there's always somebody that's going to pick up that void, and that's where the National Institute of Standards and Technology come in, NIST, and they have OSAC, which is the Organization of Scientific Area Committee, and then they have uh, the standards board on the other side of things. Both of them now have dogs and sensors committee. And so they basically picked up where Swig Dog left off. And so they adopted that 16-hour minimum standard for training. In Now that standard, and this is where I think people get a little confused, that standard is per team, not per discipline. So if you have a dual purpose patrol dog, drug dog, it's 16 hours. If you have a single purpose drug dog, it's 16 hours. If you have a tracking dog, it's 16 hours. With the exception, at least as it relates to the scientific community, of explosive dogs. And they're the scientific community there has recommended that it's 16 hours in explosive odors every month. Now, the drug standard hasn't come out from NIST and ASB, which is the Academy Standards Board, from OSAC, from the American Academy of Forensic Sciences, which is AAFS, and then finally the American National Standards Institute. Those are the organizations kind of fall under the NIST umbrella. And so the drug standard's not out yet. But if I were a betting man, I would double down that the drug standard's probably going to look very similar to that explosive standard. So what does that mean? That means if that comes out like that, and they recommend from a scientific perspective, 16 hours of maintenance training every month in drug odor detection. That means you're going to have to do, if you have a dual purpose dog, you're going to have to do 16 hours in your odor. And you'll have to do some additional amount of training, obviously, for your patrol discipline as well, because you're going to have to keep up with that, as well. So, but just because there's no case out there specifically that says you must have 16 hours, we have Florida versus Harris, but more importantly for our patrol dog handlers, just go through the most widely cited case in American history is Kerr versus City of West Palm Beach, Florida. And I think, all of your handlers should know that case if they don't. But what they said in that case, that's the 11th Circuit case, published opinion, very, very widely cited across the circuits in this case says a lot of things. It deals with use of force. It deals with bite ratios. It deals with training, failure to train, supervision, failure to supervise. It's the mothership case, if you will. But here's what the 11th Circuit said. I'm going to quote them here. Police dogs must be subject to continual rigorous training in law enforcement techniques. They said such training ensures that the dog will continue to respond with alacrity to the commands of their handlers. Without such training, the dog's responsiveness to the handler's command will deteriorate, resulting in more frequent and more serious injuries to apprehended suspects that might otherwise occur. But then they went on and said that canine law enforcement training stresses the use of oral commands as opposed to leash commands, which require the handler to pull the dog off of a subject. So most widely cited case, right? Continual rigorous training in law enforcement techniques. All right, and that's key. And then Robinette versus Barnes, which is the only federal circuit case out there related to a police dog killing somebody. They said when a properly trained, so key words there, right? Properly trained dog is used in an appropriate manner to apprehend a felony suspect, the use of that dog does not constitute deadly force. But then they went on to say this, and this is where people miss. While the intent in the officer in using the dog or the use of an improperly trained dog, that might transform the use of that dog into deadly force. So you have these like big cases, while they don't say you have to be at 16 hours a month, they do address that we have to be subject to continual, rigorous training in law enforcement techniques.
So Is there a chance on these types of cases when the sheriff or the chief or maybe somebody below them pulls the training, pulls the dogs out of training because of manpower shortage, which is not an excuse in my opinion, but is there a
Mhm.
chance then that they're looking at failure to supervise in this realm?
Yeah, failure to supervise and failure to train as well. And the biggest, at least in my opinion, although FER's the big one, biggest canine supervision case actually comes out of the Sixth Circuit out of Ohio. It's Campbell versus City of Springboro, Ohio. It's a published 2012 opinion. And in that case, if you just start to look at the background, I mean, the court starts to lay out, starting with the dog and the handler's training.
Mm-hmm.
He goes through a 300-hour basic training course. He's certified through Ohio's, Attorney General through the certification process there. And then they start talking about the handler testifies at deposition that he was not able to keep up with the dog's regular maintenance training, and that he repeatedly told his supervisors that he was unable to maintain that training, and yet they continued to deny the training. Of course, they cited manpower issues as to why they couldn't keep up with that training. The Sixth Circuit really slammed the city and the chief of police individual in his individual capacity for failing to maintain an operational canine unit. None of these supervisors went to training. None of these supervisors received any training themselves on the constitutional use of the dog. And so what the court said is, paraphrasing here, but what they said is, even if the handlers had, they wouldn't even be capable of effectively any effectively meaningful supervision of the unit anyways, because they weren't sufficiently trained themselves, right? And then it comes back to this whole deliberate indifference issue, right? Under Canton versus Harris, right? Which is the reigning controlling Supreme Court case where that rule was enunciated on the failure to train issue.
Yeah, we see it all the time, man. Like, still, guys have to come to my seminars or maybe even Ted's seminars and pay their own way,
Mm-hmm.
or they're on their own time. There's an agency around here that got a new dog and they made him train on their own time, which is crazy. No, I'm not doing any of that. Um, so, have you had to testify in court at all on this type of stuff, on the training standards?
We did in the Smith case out of the Eastern District of Texas down there. And that was a criminal case. Federal government was trying to throw the handler into the federal penitentiary for 20 years.
That was last year. Was that last year?
It's 20, it cleared the criminal side of things June of 23. So maybe
Oh,
it's a little
okay.
over a year ago.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that at the end of this show about people testifying in those types of cases. Ted, did you have a topic you wanted to talk about?
I was just gonna comment like how many times, like, because my guys have it all the time. Like they'll show up, because they're supposed to do 16 hours a month, obviously, and they show up, 4 hours at a time, between 4 and 5 hours. We usually shoot on Thursday nights to be documented, but they'll like miss a week, and I'm like, you got to make it up somewhere in between it. It doesn't Mike was just talking about. It doesn't have to be like 4 hours of tracking or 4 hours of detection or whatever. It just needs to be documented, and we get the same question all the time from handlers or from administrators. Like, well, we're at manpower. It's like that. And I kind of joke. I'm like, I don't understand how that's their job. Their job is not to hire people. Like, it's not their job. We've had some rumblings in the 10th Circuit about budget cuts and how the police chiefs or chiefs and sheriffs are starting to throw under city council and mayors and elected officials under the bus for cutting budgets and then creating a manpower shortage. So they were the inevitable victims of Monell claims, and now they're starting. And of course, these dudes are claiming absolute immunity because a lot of them are trying to claim absolute immunity because they're elected officials, and which is starting to get kind of funky. And I'm like, I'm staying out of this one. But every time that happens, and like I have a handler that's on a unit that he never misses SWAT training. Never. They never cancel SWAT training, and they do not have a dedicated SWAT unit at all. Right? Most of these guys are all like either road and SWAT or something else, SWAT, whatever else. But they never ever have to cut SWAT training. They haven't missed SWAT. They haven't missed a single hour of SWAT training in 6 years. But my handler, the canine hours, he gets cut monthly. So it's just an interesting take on, like, where the resources are allocated and how they're allocated and why. And my question always is, the canine handlers, especially dual purpose canine handlers, are just proportionally put in the highest instance of use of force of any specialized unit in military or law enforcement, right? It's the one resource that gets utilized like more than just about anything. And it's the same thing. And I know I'm picking on SWAT dudes, but the joke that I mean, when I was up in Edmonton, I asked them, I was like, when was the last time you guys shot anybody? And they're like, oh, it's been a couple, on SWAT anyway. They're like, oh, it's been a couple of years. And I'm like, but how many, meantime, when was the last time you guys bit somebody? They're like 2 days ago. I'm like, oh, well, granted, their stuff's a little different up there, but for canine anyway. But it's always interesting when we hear the prioritization of that. And we see it in the admin side too. And we had on Gene Ramirez, we talked to him about, Gene has made himself a very, very, a very healthy living defending police officers against use of force. And, in his words, he said, these departments will defend a justified shooting tooth and nail, which they should, 100%. If it's justified, 1000% they should. But they balk at justified bites. They're like, well, it's a public perception issue, and they just want to go ahead and write a settlement out because it's going to defend too much. It's going to cost too much to defend it. And they end up, then they say, but it looks like we're admitting guilt somehow, even though in the paperwork, like one that comes to mind is that one from Washoe County where they bit that dude. And, they signed the paperwork, and the paperwork said, you're going to sign this. We're going to create a settlement. You're going to say that you didn't receive any damage from the dog. And he 100% did receive some damage from that dog. But it's always interesting to me. And for the life of me, I don't know where this came from, because there's no published playbook. And it seems like administrators all over the country have the same, I guess they have like the same mentality a lot of times when it comes to canine, with the exception for the most part is kind of like some places in Texas and some places in Florida, and a lot of places in California. And I think that is because that's where most of the population is outside of like New York and Illinois. And they have learned the hard way that if they don't train, they're going to get hosed. So, I mean, it's always interesting to watch the resource allocation and hear the excuses for it. Yeah.
Real quick, where can they find when that NIST, is it NIST?
Yeah, NIST, National
NIST.
Institute of Standards and Technology. So there are currently 7 published standards for dogs. 2 of them relate to your bloodhounds, age trailing, and location checks for pre-scented canines. Both that's standard 24, 26. Standard 25 is terms and definitions, which is in my opinion, it's an important standard because it's a technical report. So it's an advisement basically from the scientific community to the court. So the court and the scientific community are speaking one language, and us in canine, we're not, for some reason, speaking that same language. And you guys know, depending on where you go in the country, the canine dialect is completely different. 27 is the only standard that Swig Dog never ventured into, and that's patrol dogs. So that's an important one. 85 deals with canine selection, handling, and healthcare. So at least the way I look at it, that's more your it relates obviously for the selection of the dog, for supervision and for the trainers, but it also relates back to handler compensation. Because it relates back to that kenneling and healthcare, so all that off-duty time stuff that handlers are doing. And then 88 is a general standard. So basically, where there is no standard, this is a general guidelines. And then finally, 92 is the explosive standard. And so officers who want to look and be part of that, and we need law enforcement representation on these boards. They're kind of getting overtaken by the scientists, which we need, but they're getting overtaken by some other civilians where we got to get our say in there. But you can go either to just Google, ASB standard 25. It will pop up. If you're a member of our website, we have it on our articles and resources page, broken down by discipline, by the dog's discipline. But they're readily available. Your listeners can find them just by straight Google search or whatever.
Yeah, we'll talk about the signing up for the website here in the last segment because it's super important. I tell everybody all the time, especially you smaller departments, you must be the subject matter expert of your program,
Yeah.
or your dog at least, at a minimum, but your program, because the judges don't know anything when it comes to dogs. Prosecutors do not know anything when it comes to dogs, and defense attorneys are just talking shit,
Yeah. And
so
on that note, Eric, though, when you get sued on a dog bite case, 99.9% of your civil defense attorneys don't know shit about dogs either. This is
Yeah.
why the prosecutors and your civil defense attorneys call experts in to help them and guide them through the nuances and intricate details of a very complicated, uh, niche that we have.
Mhm. So there's one other topic I want to bring up before we go to our commercial break. So there was something, and we'll talk about the topic. There was something that happened in California recently where people were panicking, like, "Whoa, you better do this, you better do that." And I tell everybody all the time, at least on this side of the country, if you take all the bullshit that happens in courts in California and you lift that end of the country up and you shake it and all that horse shit falls out of there, the only place it sticks is Colorado and Chicago area of Illinois. None of that shit makes its way all the way over to us. But the topic that I want you to talk about, which could eventually be like a Rodriguez type time thing, is time on bite.
Yeah, that
I know it's
winning.
been used against guys in their qualified immunity. There isn't a real number. You have this case out in California now where they said 20 seconds was too fucking long, which is crazy. We want to talk about kind of where that's at.
Yeah. So a couple things here. First of all, if you look at the case law, we generally win the initial deployment of the dog. Generally, we win those. It's the duration of the bite that gets more difficult to defend on some of these cases. And the case you're referencing is Rosenbaum versus City of San Jose, California. And there's a disconnect when you start looking at that case. There is I think, a disconnect between what the courts believe is under control, the suspect being under control, and what law enforcement thinks under control means. In law enforcement, coppers, we think under control is when those handcuffs get on, right? And the courts, they don't see it that way. At least the Ninth Circuit, for sure, does not see it that way. And that was glaringly obvious when you listen to the oral arguments and watch the oral arguments in that case. And quite frankly, I thought the city did a absolute horrible job at defending that case at oral arguments. They were not prepared, and they should have been. So we do have cases outside of the Ninth Circuit, though, that have addressed these time on bites. We have, as an example, the Fifth Circuit in a case called Cooper versus Brown, which is the Fifth Circuit is a pretty cop-friendly circuit, and they're willing to give a little bit of deference to the officers where they can. But in that case, they said, that bite was too long. And it very similar to the reasoning behind the Rosenbaum case that just came out in 24. We have a couple of cases out of the Seventh Circuit. So that's Mid-Country, Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana. We have a couple of cases there, Becker versus Elfrich, where they didn't like the bite timing on it. Davis versus Allen, which is a brand new case that just came out. And this is kind of one of those cases, if you think about it, dogs on the bite, handlers like, bring the dog back to me. Well, that's not going to happen, right? In most cases. And so they had a kind of an adverse ruling there, at least on qualified immunity grounds. And for the handlers, qualified immunity, when you invoke that defense of qualified immunity, it is now on the plaintiff to prove that you violated a clearly established right. So they got to come back and say, listen, there was some binding authority published case from your circuit, or there's published cases from a bunch of different circuits that would have put you on notice that what you were doing was wrong. And it's a little bit more than that, but that's it in a nutshell. And so what the cases have said is, listen, there was enough to put these officers on notice that leaving a dog on the bite when a person is surrendered and under control, that's a violation of a clearly established right. And therefore, the officers would not be entitled to qualified immunity. And in the Rosenbaum case, while important, I'm not going to dispute that it's not important because I think it's an important case because it's going to start to set the stage, in my opinion, for other litigation. But really, what the court said in that case is, you know what? It's up for a jury to decide whether the bite was too long. That's in the end, that's what they said. We deny qualified immunity. It's up to a jury to determine whether Rosenbaum was in fact under control, um, and that. And so that's all that really that it did. But it brings up this important point because I think, and you guys would agree, I think over the last decade, 15 years or so, um, the industry shifted from verbal releases. Um, and really, the verbal release comes from Kerr versus City of West Palm Beach, Florida. After that, that's when all these national associations for certification purposes said, "All right, we're gonna make verbal release as a tested component of our certification." But on the street, in the last 10, 15 years, for sure, we've gone away from that. Right? It's a physical removal from the bite, and I've said we should be testing the verbal testing, but we also should be testing the physical removal also because that's what we're doing on the street. Show a certifying official, some evaluator, that you can physically remove this dog from the bite in a reasonable amount of time, and you can do so without further injuring the person, right? We're not ripping the damn dog off, causing, serious soft tissue damage, things like that. Um, so I think the Rosenbaum case and the cases that are going to start to be coming from that. That's the consistent argument that we're going to start to see now is probably going to push us back in the direction of that verbal release. And I think that's just going to be the consequences, the unintended consequences of that particular case. But you're right. If you look at East Coast cases, 11th Circuit, Sixth Circuit for sure, and this is tongue in cheek. I don't want to get in trouble from your listeners, but the Sixth Circuit pretty much has taken the position that every criminal should be bitten by a police dog. I mean, they're just so police dog friendly. But being that we've hit the Fifth Circuit, which is a very conservative circuit, pretty cop friendly. Being that we've kind of hit that in the Seventh Circuit, where the Seventh and the Sixth Circuit are pretty consistent with one exception on police dog bites. You may start to see that trend, and I would venture that we're going to start seeing that argued a lot more in the district court levels. This denial of qualified immunity because the officer knew or should have known that the person was under control and things like that. So, but again, just like anything else in this industry, there's a huge knee-jerk reaction to it, right? What we should do is say, okay, listen, we see what's going on there. We note it. Is there anything that we can do, or should we be doing that maybe we can get out ahead of it and kind of head it off before it becomes an issue in the Sixth Circuit, for example, or the Fourth Circuit, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina. This is my thoughts on that.
It's kind of interesting. And when at HRD, I have added on into my handler schools, I've added on a section to the end of it for this specific thing. And, forever dual purpose canine handlers were taught, right? How many times, Eric, have you heard that, if you're doing scenario-based training and dudes are like, as long as I get a felony, I'm good. As long as I can get a felony, I'm fine. As long as I get a felony, I'm good. And I'm like, you've got to stop that, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times dudes get brain dead as soon as the dog makes contact, and they're unable to separate the actual crime that was committed from the actual apprehension event. So you could have somebody that undoubtedly will check your gram factors, all of them, and then the magic mystery, and then the the non-existent fourth one for canine handlers. But they check all the boxes, And then as soon as the dog makes contact, they're like, okay, no more, I'm good, right? And then they become extremely compliant, no problem. And for whatever reason, it's 2025 and we still have body cam coming out with dudes growing up, grabbing the dog's collar, good boy, hit. Or, well, if you're in the 10th circuit in a specific state, they say hit, hit, hit over and over again. It ends up looking like a gang initiation. And, or my favorite is there are still state agencies, one that borders Oklahoma, that trains other agencies like Ohio State Police that say suspect, stand still, dog name, out. There's published case law in the Sixth Circuit that says that it's unwilling to assume that it's unreasonable to assume that people are going to be able to comply with commands while being bit by a dog because it hurts. So in that respect, I think the training that the handlers have been receiving is woefully outdated and has not been updated and has not been updated. So when you start saying things and training like good boy, which I do not allow my handlers to say, it looks terrible. And then what's the other one that we hear all the time? Stop fighting my dog. Stop fighting my dog, which looks really tone deaf when you roll up and they're like on their face, already proned out, hands behind their back. And the handler comes up, stop fighting my dog, stop fighting my dog. And then you got to sit there at a deposition after you've done interrogatories. And they pull up your body cam and have you scroll through and say, timestamp for me exactly where he's fighting the dog and show me where he's trying to criminally injure your dog. And it looks like a training issue and it looks bad. Aside from how clean the out might be, right? After that, you're like, oh, okay, now we can pop him off. And he's compliant. So compliance looks, like you said, Mike, like, I mean, police say one thing and courts say another thing. And, we've been training handlers for quite a while to start saying things like, help me get you cuffed and I'll get this dog off you. As soon as I can get you cuffed, I can get this dog off you. As soon as I can determine, hey man, if I can figure out you don't have any weapons on you, I'll take this dog off of you right now. Right? Help me get you handcuffed. I'll get this dog off you. Get your hands behind your back. I'll take this dog off you. As soon as we can get you searched, I'll take this dog off of you. Right? But there are situations where the case that comes to mind is Escobar versus Monty in the Fifth Circuit, where they left the dog on. But the mitigating circumstances in that were the mom was on the phone telling them they're going to have to kill him to get him under arrest. The DPS helicopter pilot, who was actually a canine handler in a former life, was radioing down, and he's like, he's proned out, but he is within, arm's reach of that knife. And Monty, I know Lance. Lance left the dog on until they got handcuffs on him, and the Fifth Circuit said, yeah, that's legit. I mean, the guy had committed a heinous crime. He beat the brakes off his girlfriend. His mom was saying, we're going to have to kill him. We had all these mitigating circumstances. And then on top of that, he refused to move away from this thing in this backyard. So there was a ton of things, like a constellation of events that happened based on the actions of the actual crime and then the actions that he performed during the actual apprehension event that led to them leading the dog on until they got the handcuffs on him. And that is where training has to happen, right? Because a lot of times we're like, here's your grand factors, you're like, bite him. And then it's like, okay, cool, everybody turns around, you're like, just take him off, whatever. And that's when having good decoys that act, that know how to act, that fight with dogs or don't fight with dogs or whatever they're doing, right? And that becomes like, when does the clock start? Is what I've been asked. Like, when does the clock start? And I tell people, I'm like, once you have determined that it is safe to remove the dog, whatever it is that is determining it's safe, it's suspect action, suspect history, criminal history, the actual event that you're looking for, that you're hunting this person for, all of these things determine when that clock starts. And when you determine that it's safe, that's when the clock starts. Right. And what does it look like when it's safe?
And I don't even think that's going to be the standard eventually. The standard is going to be when the guy yells, I give up.
Right.
I stop. Okay.
Well,
or something like that.
Video that I keep showing it, at HRDs with that dude that's like, I submit, but he's sitting there. He's got a hold of one of the deputy's tasers. And he's like, I submit, and he's putting that dude in a fucking wrist lock. Yeah. The deputy in a wrist lock and saying, I submit, but clearly he's not. I mean, he's not.
Right. I mean, there has to be some sort of overt verbalization and overt physical act to show compliance, right? In that scenario, there's absolutely no overt physical act to show that I'm trying to comply with you when I'm holding onto your taser in your wrist.
Yeah, I just see them going that way with, well, he said I give up. Really? While his hands were buried under his waistband while he was on his stomach?
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. Have they taken any consideration in those to Handler being by himself?
Well, I think there's a stronger argument for sure. If and like Ted just talked about, well, I'm just looking for a felony. I'm just looking for a felony. I'm just looking for a felony, right? Well, that's not the standard by which we deploy police dogs, because that is one factor in Graham. And I think we can agree, and the listeners should be able to agree, right? There are plenty of felony offenses that are not violent in nature, right? Property crimes,
Child support
retail, yeah,
shit.
child
Yeah.
support, retail thefts, things like that.
All white
Um,
collar crimes.
Mhm.
right. But there are misdemeanor offenses that are serious in nature, right? Domestic battery, those type of things.
Anything
The
involving a weapon.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, restraining order violations tend to have, well, violent tendencies, things like that. But the key factor in Graham is articulating the immediate threat, right? So if you launch this dog because this person is an immediate threat to your safety and you are by yourself, I think you have a much stronger argument. You're in much more solid footing. And the courts have said, in the Becker case, Becker versus Alfrich out of the Seventh Circuit, they see that Alicia versus Thomas. They keep coming back to. As a matter of fact, the Rosenbaum case said the exact same thing. This wasn't a case where it was a single officer. There were multiple officers there with their firearms trained on the person. So while they're not saying specifically, they the they are alluding to the fact that if this was a single officer under those circumstances, this would be a different fact pattern, and we might have a different opinion on it. But in those cases, they weren't. So I think that
Yeah.
was a good point.
So the other thing too, real quick, I want to bring up is, listen, I was sued. I had a excited delirium death that I got into a fight with a naked dude and he died. I was sued for $20 million. The federal court judge, who's a piece of shit, he hates us, like hates our agency, hates everybody down. He's from here. He's a goof. He is one of those federal judges that act like they are God, but he took our qualified immunity. He denied qualified immunity. And it sucks, guys. It's scary. But just know when it doesn't mean you lose. We won. These cases, a lot of these guys are getting their qualified immunity taken and they're still winning these cases. So it is not the end of the world when that happens. But what happens is when these cases start coming out and people are talking about them and cops and supervisors are talking about them, well, he lost. No, he was denied qualified immunity. It does not mean he lost the case, and most times they don't. And it doesn't mean that he's going to lose the case. It does suck because your whole life is up for grabs if there's any monetary, thing that comes against you, especially under the $20 million thing. But us that were all involved in the case were all found that we were not responsible for his death. The city, however, had to pay $1.85 million for failure to train. They failed to train excited delirium, even though we have never heard of excited delirium. It's not so. I mean, it's not the same as a canine case, but it's always comes down to failure to train. Always failure to train and failure to supervise. And like Mike said earlier, the Supreme Court's never addressed a dog bite. That's not like those cases with the dog bites. It's always nose stuff. It's always detection and taking search and seizure type things like that. So I just wanted to point that out to people that losing your qualified immunity sucks, but don't give up the fight. I mean, if you were right, you were right. Our qualified immunity was taken from us straight flat out of spite. No legal bounds for it, but you can't do anything to the guy. You can't do not one thing to the federal judge. So we're going to go ahead and take our second commercial break. We come back. We're going to talk about some things that are coming down, and maybe you mentioned a case or maybe one or two cases that just came out that people don't even really know about. And we're going to talk about where you can get Mike to come to you. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. Please check out our friends Jason and Aaron Pergison at Highland Police canine. If you guys are interested in going to school, if you've come out of the military, you can use your GI Bill to go through their school. They have a pet training school, they have a police training school, they have online courses that you guys can take, such as their canine supervisor course. You guys can really take that as far as you want with them. They are a veritable fountain of knowledge when it comes to canine. They're located in North Carolina. They're always accessible, always available, and we've had such a long relationship with them. I cannot say a good enough good about them. So please check them out. If you go to Tactical Police Canine Training, go to their online programs, check them out. Use the discount code NARC for 20% off any of their online courses. Guys, that will help you. It'll help you make headway in this industry. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times when we're talking about dog kennels and their construction, like you don't know where to start. What do I do? What do I add? I need to weatherproof this, waterproof this, pee proof this. If you guys have checked out Horizon Structures lately, it's unbelievable. They literally have everything that you could possibly need. They can build your kennel with as many holes as you want in it, and they can drive it out to you, set it on your pad, hook it up, and you can move dogs in it immediately, from mild to wild, from one kennel all the way up, from the tiniest of pet runs to the hardest of working dogs. If you can dream it, they can build it. Go ahead and check them out at horizonstructures.com. Go specifically to their working dog area. It's commercial-dog-kennels. Give them a call, 888-447-4337. And of course, check them out on their socials at Horizon Structures, and they will hook you guys up. We also want to send a huge shout out. He recently passed away. Rest in peace, Brother Deeg. Thank you for our music. Thank you for the permission to use it. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you're doing well on the other side. Thank you guys for listening.
All right, everybody, we're back. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting The Bite with Ted Summers, and it sounds like you have a witch in your microphone. You can hear that wind. I'm like, what little kid is? Dude, I'm in a haunted house, and so I'm thinking
that's totally what it sounds like. It's gnarly.
The lady who's dead in my basement. Maybe there's a grave in the basement. They didn't kill a lady and stick her in the basement, but the grave that's in the basement. Maybe was that her? No, that's Ted's win. And Mike Kmiecik from Sheepdog Guardian Consulting. Listen, guys. So when Mike teaches at these conferences, like the big conferences. Like he'll be at Hold the Line and things like that. His classes are packed. And there's a reason for that. And it's not for let's hear the latest and greatest. Guys don't know that they're coming because they don't know shit about case law. Ted's classes, he does a lot of case law teaching. He gives these binders with all the stuff in there. But a lot of places don't do any of it whatsoever. I would challenge most supervisors in this country to tell what Graham versus Connor is. They don't know. They flat out do not know.
They can tell you what their policy is and guarantee you it's split up in 3 parts.
Yeah. And right. Yeah. If they're using Lexapol, the canine use of force policy is Graham versus Connor. They just wrote it out. And they're like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'm like, yeah, you dumbasses. So let's talk about just like a case recently that came out that maybe nobody's even knows yet. Do you have any in mind? You mentioned one time on Bite that I'd never heard of it. You just like something Hayes or something.
Yeah, Davis versus Allen. That's out of the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. They sent the dog in like a double wide trailer ish. Dude's in the back room there. They send the dog in. Dog goes on bite. They then leave the threshold and start working to where the sound of the dog is coming from. But he's kind of in this room with the door, like off the hinges, but like partially blocking. So he doesn't have the handler doesn't even have a real good visual in. But on the body cam, there's just enough of that slice through the door that you can actually see the guy's hands while the dog is biting him. And the handler's ordering the suspect to bring the dog back to him. And he's like, I physically cannot bring this dog to you. And the opening of the door was so tight and there was stuff kind of blocking it that the officers actually had to remove their outer body armor to squeeze through the door to even get in there to get the dog. Um, and so in the Seventh Circuit there, I was like, well, clearly this guy cannot comply with your. He's complying with your orders, but he cannot comply with that particular order. He cannot bring the dog to you. Not only would a reasonable juror not believe that this guy can bring a dog to you when bring the dog to you when this dog is biting him. Um, but he physically couldn't even get through the door, even if he wanted to. I mean, you yourself had to remove your body armor and your gun belt to kind of get through this door. This opening of the door. Um, so that's a recent case. And again, the Seventh Circuit is fairly police dog friendly, and they generally don't rule against the police as it relates to that. Because think Indiana's got don't commit a crime in Indiana. I just warn your listeners because they'll dog your ass there for sure.
They will. I like
Yes.
it. There's did they end up settling that case or did they go to trial?
It got remanded back down to the district court, and I haven't seen it because it just came out in I think that's a 24 case. It might be a late 23 case, but I think it was maybe early 24. So that was remanded back down with the denial of qualified immunity on that. So,
So if you were
um,
asked to come out to an agency to evaluate their training program and you were there and learned that they teach bring my dog to me, suspect bring my dog to me, what would you be your counseling on?
yeah, stop doing that immediately.
Stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, discontinue that practice immediately. I mean, that's and Ted brought up some really, I think, very important points in the last segment. Like this. Suspect stand still, dog
The way
aim.
they say it, they
Well,
go, suspect stand
yeah,
still. Just like
or
that.
stop
It's
fighting my dog.
so
Right?
dumb.
There is an expert witness that routinely testifies against us. That's all he does. Um,
This is the
he's
golden
got a
hamster
boiler.
guy.
What's that?
The golden hamster guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Someone does listening. His PhD is in animal behavior or whatever. So he's
yeah.
testifying about police dogs biting, and his PhD was
Hmm.
over fucking golden hamsters. Now
Yes.
they are aggressive. Don't get me wrong.
They do bite. They're nasty.
It's a fucking hamster. Sorry.
So they had this like boilerplate template, right? That the handler said, "Stop fighting my dog." Clearly, the body cam or the dash cam or the video footage did not show that the guy's fighting the dog, and so therefore the handler's a liar, right? Um, and again, this is an articulation problem. I agree with that. We should not be teach this. I would not be advising us to be using that language. But if you are using that language, you need to be able to articulate. I'm not talking. The stop fighting my dog as an example. That command is a preparatory command for the release, right? I'm not talking to the suspect. I'm talking to the dog. When I say stop fighting my dog, the dog knows the next word out of my mouth is going to be a release, right? But we can't articulate this, and we have handlers who don't even know why they're saying it. They think that they're saying it because that's just the way they were trained. And they don't even understand like the concept is to that it really is a preparatory command. Now I don't recommend the use of that, but if you are, be able to articulate that, right?
Yeah, the articulation is pretty bad with guys. Like we just had an episode that came out yesterday, and Ted talks about the guy's inability to articulate what variable reward is used for in detection and why we don't reward on the street. And instead of saying it's because I don't know if my dog was right, they can't articulate
Stop fucking saying that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
the fact that we're watching, we can articulate the change of behavior, blah blah blah, and all that other stuff. They're just, I don't know. Ted said, don't, that type of shit.
Well,
You can say that if you want, though.
Yeah,
I mean, it's funny that you say that because if you think about what you're telling the court, right? Well, I didn't reward the dog because I wasn't in a position to confirm whether it was right. So what you're telling the court is, Mr. and Mrs. Judge, you need to trust my dog, but I don't trust my dog,
yeah,
right? I mean,
That's exactly
doesn't
what I
even
said in
make
the
sense.
last episode. I'm like, pick a struggle. And I said that the group that tells people to say that, the group that tells guys to not reward on actual stops because you're quote unquote not sure if he's right, are the same goons that are like, always trust your dog. And I'm like, pick a struggle, homie, either do or don't. And we testify and we certify under Florida versus Harris with a bona fide third party to determine that we're reliable in the field. And now we're not rewarding because we're not sure. No, asshole, we're not rewarding because it's a safety issue. It's a termination event. I want to be able to articulate it and not have some hamster trainer come back and articulate it for me. So, I mean, that's why. It's not because it's not because you don't know if he's right.
Yeah. They don't get it. So is there any cases that you're kind of keeping an eye on right now?
The biggest issue that we got to be watching, I think, on the detection side of thing is going to be this trespassery issue onto the vehicle. We're
Did I
seeing
send
federal
you that body
courts.
cam from there? I think I did it when it came.
Oh yes, no, oh yeah,
Okay.
yes, from the Dorf case. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, thank you for that, by the way. Some of the federal district, the lower district court cases, judges, they're toppling like dominoes on this particular issue. We just saw Colorado Supreme Court just had an adverse ruling there.
West Virginia.
West Virginia, yeah, we got a couple cases there. Now the Iowa Supreme Court just came back and said that the dog, touching the vehicle or instinctually entering the vehicle without facilitation or prompting from the handler, that was not a trespass. But that is, I think that's going to be the big topic here. The two big topics that we need to watch. One is on the detection, is this trespassery issue, and the second one is going to be this duration of bite, which has been brewing for a long time. I think it's just we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg on this one because
I mean, in Watkins versus City of Oakland, right? I mean, it's 1998 is when that came out, and they said in there that continued encouragement could be construed as a constitutional violation. I mean, this is 1998. Yeah. It's not like they just made it up. Like, it's not like they just were like, okay, well, we've been losing the lethal argument and we've been getting Robin-etted to death, so we're going to make something else up. And they're like, no, let's go after this. I'm like, dude, it's been there since I was 20 when that came out. And, it sat dormant for, I don't know, 18 years or something? Dormant for the most part. And then all of a sudden, I can't remember the case off the top of my head where they first started talking about it again. But when it came out, I was like, oh, shit, here it comes. And I kind of told some of my handlers, I was like, watch what happens. I was like, now it's going to be this issue because forever, I mean, Mike and Eric, both of you, like whenever there was an initial lawsuit, the first paragraph was dog bites are lethal. Right. And then there's been, I don't know, like 27 cases that have parroted Robinette versus Barnes. It's been cited so many times, it's not de facto law. And assuming the training is good. I think they finally gave up, and now they're like, all right, well, cool, we'll go. I've seen some recently that they say they're not even arguing Graham at all. They're like, yeah, sure, he should have gotten bit, no problem, whatever. But this is what happened after the fact. And you're like, oh, okay, well. And now all of a sudden handlers are like, yeah, but he had a felony. I'm like, that doesn't mean you get to remove chunks of him and you get to let him stay on. I mean, we haven't even talked about the Michigan State thing, but the Michigan State police bite, I used a video.
He was just found not guilty.
Which was fucking atrocious.
Yeah, but he was found not guilty on that case.
Yeah, he was found not guilty.
Criminally,
but that was a product of training.
Criminal. Yeah, well, 100%. I'm in agreement. This generation's canine issue. Those two things.
So Ohio is revamping our state certification. They put together a panel, fucked it all up, of course, and they were supposed to institute new changes 24, which didn't happen. And then they said it would start in 25. It didn't happen because there was a massive revolt in the city or in the entire state. So new guy comes in and he's second in command of OPATA. He's like, well, we're gonna listen because they had these meetings and they put out opinion cards and guys were like, you guys are the fucking worst. Get the fuck out of here. And so they put together. They did this committee, this vote, like you or somebody else will put your name in as a subject matter expert. They vote on everybody. They're going to put a panel together. There's someone from the State Highway Patrol. There's a smaller agency evaluator guy. There's a medium, a large, a private, and I can't remember what else. It's like 6 guys. So then those guys are going to do a panel of recommendations for changes in the state certification. Well, that panel came out today, and I'm on the panel. So
that's good.
one of the things that I'm going to really push for is that mechanical out. You must show me that you can get that dog off, because guys are terrible at it. And then they're on their body camera going, I can't get him off. Well, zip it, zip. The fuck are you talking about? So that's going to be the one thing, you have to do a verbal out. Cool. You must also show us. So there's a building search bite. There's a area search bite. There's a long send, and then there's a bite following gunfire. You don't have to do any kind of out whatsoever on the area search, the building search, or the gunfire, but on the long one is where the whole verbal out thing is. The thing I'm going to suggest is that in one of those bites, your choice, you got a mechanical, whether that's lift off, choke off, break stick, whatever it is you do, you have to, I don't know what reasonable time would be, but it's got to get done. Like, you have to show that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. Even if you're using an e-collar,
Get them off.
Show me that you have some other means other than a verbal release of this dog, that you can do it without further injuring this individual.
Yeah, because currently verbal outs is not the law of this country, but you have to get a dog off in a reasonable time. Get him off. And if the guy, and we all do this too, not we all, but a lot. I used to do this forever, and I changed it when I noticed problems. So we're training, we do a building search. Boo, the dog goes in, bites the guy. And if we're going to work on the lift off, tactical out, whatever you want to call it, the guy's always standing. It's real easy. You just, lift the dog up. But if the guy's on the ground, boy, dudes fall apart. They fall apart with that. They don't know unless they have a break stick, or they don't know how, like Ted teaches a handcuff ratchet side out like that. Guys don't know how to do it. And that's one of the things. They're not going to change a bunch of stuff, but that and adding potassium chloride into the explosives is the one that I really want them to do. We have RDX, but no potassium chlorate. And it's like, get the fuck out of here.
Not part of the...
I'm just going to keep showing the video of the Cybertruck bomb. That was fucking fireworks.
Yeah, perfect example.
Right. Yeah. Just use that. So let's talk about the website, Sheepdog Guardian. Let's talk about what people get when they join up and they join in on that.
Sure. So people get access to all of our case law that's broken down by court jurisdiction, so by state, by federal circuit. And then I further break it down from there by dog discipline. So if you're looking for a patrol dog case, here are your patrol dog cases. The patrol dog cases are broken down even further. You got just excessive force, you got building searches, you got your area searches. Our drug side is the same way. It's broken out even further by issue. So if it's an airport drug odor case, here are all the airports, here are all the alerting cases, here are the vehicle cases. So you have access to all of that. We have a very robust articles and resources section of our website. Written, most of those articles are written by industry experts, but it's also got the scientific, some other studies, things like that would, and again, that's broken down by dog discipline as well. You also get our newsletter that comes out regularly with the latest and greatest cases that have come out over the last month, a couple months. Our February one should be coming out pretty soon because we're always 1 month behind. And then you have with the membership, anybody can reach out to me. I will answer anybody, but our members get priority responses to questions if I, related to, do you know of a case, related to this topic, or, do you have a training recommendation here? And so usually I get back to those within 24 hours of being sent. Except for on the weekends, my wife said I have to stop doing that.
Yeah.
No more weekend stuff, at least for emails. So that's what you get with our website.
That's cool, man. Like I said, it's not expensive, guys. You're spending more money a week on Monster Energy drinks
and pup cups for your stupid
videos when you should be learning this stuff. And even, listen, nobody's expecting you to memorize all these case laws, but you have it at your you got an idea when you're going to go into court for a suppression hearing or something, or anything where you need to give information to the prosecutor to bring up, or in civil court, your defense attorney to bring up. You need to be able to give them information. I don't recommend on the stand you drop in case law, because they will destroy you. You better know that shit.
Or they'll
You'll
stop
get
and go
crushed.
read it and come back and talk to you.
Yeah. Let the other attorneys do that shit.
I
I did
actually
it
have
once.
something funny on that.
What's that?
I have something funny on
Yeah,
that
go
when you're
ahead.
done
Let's
with
hear
this.
it.
So I was testifying in the case United States versus Smith, defending the canine handler in that case. But I've never been asked this question before. Quite frankly, the federal prosecutor, the assistant U.S. attorney, goes, "So you're an expert on case law?" I don't even know what the hell that means. Being a
Mhm.
non-attorney. So I look over at our defense team, and they got big smiles on their face, and I'm like, "Fuck it, man! I'm just gonna go for it. Let's see where this goes." And I go, "Yeah, well, at least it's canine related." And she goes, "Are you familiar with the case Becker versus Elfrich?" Well, first of all, we're down in Texas. I don't know why you're asking me about a Seventh Circuit case where I'm from. And I'm like, I'm familiar with that. It's a Seventh Circuit dog bite case from 2016. And now I could see one of the articles I have on my website is the patrol dog summary, and that case is in there. And so I can see that she's got my patrol dog summary in front of me, and she goes, "Well, the Seventh Circuit said there, you know, um, as the threat changes, so too should the degree of force." And I go, "Yes, ma'am." They were citing another Seventh Circuit case from 2010, a case called Cyrus versus Town of McWanaco. That's a taser case. Well, I didn't put the citation in there. I just put what the court said. So now she starts flipping around, frantically flipping around. She's like, "Well, it doesn't say that in here." And I go, "Well, no, you have to read the case. Did you actually read the case?" And
Oh.
she goes, "All right, we'll just move on." And so I look over it. Well, I look up at the judge. If you've never been in federal
Mhm.
court, they sit way up there because they're God. And he's got a big old grin on his face, and our attorneys are just laughing. And I'm like, I don't even know what the hell that means. What is an expert in case law, for crying out loud?
Yeah, that is an interesting thing. So, what you got coming up on? Real quick, talk about, because I'm going to get on a soapbox here in a minute about something, but talk about what you offer service wise, as far as you mentioned supervisor classes, all that type of stuff.
Mhm. Yeah. So in addition to, our policy review and the consulting and the website, we teach seminars. They are discipline specific. So our most popular is a 2-day. It's the patrol drug course, drug detection course. In that course, we talk a lot about generally accepted practices, but I also do my seminars very specific to the jurisdiction. So I'm going out to Pennsylvania as an example next week. Uh, we'll talk about the generally accepted standards. We'll talk about like the big canine cases, but then the majority of it's going to be spent uh, looking at the Third Circuit, because Pennsylvania's in the Third Circuit. So we're going to look at the Third Circuit, and we're going to look at Pennsylvania cases, right, to make sure everybody's up to date on those. So I do a very specific, and our seminars. Have been approved by the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania, Ohio. I should have gone down this road, Tennessee, for continuing legal education for attorneys as well, to get the prosecutors in there. We also do a 1-day supervisor. I'm going to be changing it soon, because really the supervisor needs to be in the 3 days. They need to be in the patrol detection plus the supervisor, because otherwise I feel like I spent a little bit of time rehashing some of the stuff that I already covered. And then we talk about the big cases, right? City of Canton, Ohio versus Harris on the deliberate indifference. Ted mentioned earlier in the conversation, he mentioned Monell. And for those of you who don't know, it's a case called Monell versus New York City Social Services. Basically says the agency, that's an agency liability case, says, that the agency can be liable if they are the moving force, or the driving force, moving force behind a constitutional violation. So we cover those topics for the supervisors, and we talk about in depth the Campbell versus City of Springboro case per as it relates to the supervisory issues. So we do a very, very, I do my best to be as specific to the jurisdiction that I'm in, because, it doesn't do me good. Like, I'm not, why would I come to Ohio and tell you all about the Ninth Circuit and what California's doing? I don't give a fuck.
Right.
You just don't. I mean, because it's not applicable to you. Now, there are some cases you should be paying attention to, watching for trends. But I'm going to talk about Sixth Circuit. I'm going to talk about Ohio cases and things like that, and how they apply to the dog, based on my training experience as a search and seizure instructor, as a use of force instructor, and from my experience, consulting with attorneys on these canine cases, and my expert witness testimony.
That's awesome, man. The prosecutor one for the areas that it's continuing education is how many days?
Those are the 2 day patrol
2 days.
drug. Yeah, the 2 day
Okay, I'm gonna
patrol
have to bring
class.
that up to some folks over
Yeah,
here.
and I continue as I start to go. When I have time to catch up, and I can get all my stuff and all my updates up done in advance. I've just said I'm just going to start shooting them out to the body that governs the continuing legal education, to get these attorneys, into the class. And the attorneys, we've had a lot of attorneys come through my class. And, some attorneys, you know how they are, right? Oh, you're a non-attorney. I can't
Hmm.
speak to you. You don't know anything about the law. All the prosecutors that I've had in my class have overwhelmingly um, been very positive. Like, the way you're teaching it is just you're doing a good service for the officers. So they've enjoyed it, and I like to get the prosecutors in, the attorneys in on the conversation. Well, what are you guys looking at here? What are you thinking on some of these topics? Because these officers are from your area, so let them know what you're thinking.
Hmm.
And so it's good. So
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a good idea, and I know there are some. I think agencies that have been asking lately for people that do, unit evaluations, top to bottom types deals. I know you offer that.
we do canine unit audits, and the problem is, I mean, you guys have been around a long time. I mean, generally, I don't get called in to do a canine unit audit when things are running smoothly, right? It's
Right.
when there's already a problem, right? I'm going to tell you one thing, and for your listeners, and especially the supervisors who are listening, all roads lead back to management, right? They lead back to management, and so I always recommend you need to do canine unit audits when everything's running smoothly, or at least you think they're running smoothly, so you can catch the problems before they become an issue, right?
Yeah.
Let's fix them before we are paying millions of dollars out in a lawsuit.
Yeah. A buddy of mine or buddy of ours that does those said he tells them almost every one of these problems come back, to management, and he's like, so I'm probably going to hurt your feelings here
Hmm.
at the end of
Hmm.
this audit. So the last thing I want to talk about is, this is just kudos to you, is if you're in this industry, I don't believe if you're making money off of this industry and you're deeply involved in some way, that you should be on the side of the other side in court. You have guys like Mike here that you heard him say in the beginning, he works on the behalf of criminal prosecution stuff, and then on the defending the guys and their departments on the civil side. Guys in this industry, whether you're, I don't know, in charge of a large certifying body, or maybe you're from another country, but you've been deep into this industry, or you're a vendor in, I don't know, Ohio, who tells on his own guys, testifies against his own people and his own dogs and people he's trained, and travels around the country testifying against cops, yet still is training cops, training dogs. And they do this for money, not some glory hound, not some thing where they think they're protecting the agency. You are a pariah. You are a piece of shit, in my opinion. And I will never treat you like anything else other than that. If I see you at a seminar, I will call you a rat. If I see you in person, if you ask me to come on this show, you're never coming on. Two of the people I'm talking about have been on the show before and will never be on the show again. If you're in this industry, making money from this industry, you should not be supporting the other side whatsoever. So I applaud guys like Mike and guys that do the right thing. And like this case in Texas that he's talking about was bullshit, absolute bullshit. And Mike had to go down there. And here's the thing. Those guys that testify against the cops lose all the time. They lose often. Their narratives are bullshit. So stop it. If you're getting paid as an expert witness and you're selling police dogs, and you're getting paid as an expert witness to testify against the police dog handlers, go fuck yourself. Get out of this industry whatsoever, because I'll fuck you up. Like this bullshit. You should not be involved in these cases whatsoever. I have no qualms about calling you out in front of people at one of these seminars. And my goal is to get it so that nobody is having these people teach at any of these conferences. There's one of them's teaching at a conference coming up. I guarantee it's his last fucking time he's ever teaching in public at one of these conferences, because I will use this platform to get that shit taken care of. So that's the end of my rant on that. I don't believe in ratting on guys. I don't believe in fucking testifying against guys. I believe in standing up for them. If they're wrong, they're wrong. And that shit will come out. They will. It won't even get to that point. Right? If they're out here just nuking, like sticking dogs on people's faces and do it, listen, man, cool. You fucked that up. You got to answer to that. I'm not here to support you. But these even marginal cases where it's an opinion change, fuck yourself, man. Stay out of it and mind your own business. $500 that you got paid to do that testimony ain't worth it. Especially guys testifying against people they fucking trained. I don't get it. I don't understand how guys can live with themselves in this industry doing that shit. Trying to get a kid put in fucking federal prison for a scratch. You know what I mean? Making up bullshit. And then expecting us to look at you as some revered person on some fucking Facebook page where you like to put on 18 million word paragraphs in every post that's in there and always talk about, well, I've been around here for 30 years. Go fuck yourself. Chump ass bitch. And how does a foreigner get brought into this country to be an expert witness in any capacity whatsoever? I will never understand that. So anyways, thank you, Mike, for sticking up for that guy and all the other people that you do and all the other work that you do, keeping guys going, keeping guys up on it. And I'll always support dudes like you. Always.
I appreciate that. I'm with you. I don't get it. I don't understand. And that dog just received a medal, and then that handler was recognized as now a certifying official with, I think, NNBBA. This, I'll tell you what, when you're the expert in a case where a copper is facing 20 years in the federal penitentiary, you feel the you feel that full weight on your shoulders. I can tell you that.
I can't imagine what that kid went through, man. I can't imagine that. So where can guys get a hold of you after that? I should have turned my mic down before I started ranting. I know I was redlining on that bitch, but it's all right.
They can reach out to me at just go to our website. It's www.sheepdogguardian.com. We do have social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn. We can reach out through there. Best is to get to our website. That's where all the good stuff is.
Awesome. Ted, what about you?
The normal Torchlight Canine, letter K number 9. It's on all the socials. HRD Police Canine. We have one in Surprise, Arizona coming up, and then one with Mass State Police, but that's closed, if I recall. The one in Arizona is open. We might be going to Italy to Aviano Air Base, which would be kind of cool.
That'd be cool.
That'll be interesting. And then I just got back from DCA. We talked about that last time, but outside of that, I've got a handler school starting, and then planning another one for mid-June, mid-July. So yeah, Torchlight Canine, HRD Police Canine, of course, working_dog_radio on Instagram, and then workingdogradio.com. So we have all the t-shirts and stuff up, and it's nice to know that the Make America Bite Again stickers and stuff and artwork is not
relevant.
Outdated.
Yep. That's one of our best designs.
It's good around for another, 4 years. So
yeah, those are excellent. Google my name, or excuse me, go to Amazon and look up my name on there. My book's for sale on there. $15. E-collar without conflict for pets and working dogs. That's the seminar that I'm teaching around. It's the class that I was teaching there. I just took my PowerPoint and made a book out of it. It's pretty thin, easy reading. I get tons of messages every week about guys that are like, this is great, man. Like you can actually become an e-collar trainer out of that book, or fix problems with the e-collar that were created by the e-collar, which sounds counterintuitive, but if you do it right, you can start over. So Mike, I'm glad we could get this done.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I much appreciated.
All right. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Thanks, guys.